different paths collide tonight in the all-important dress rehearsal for the regular season. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. I'm Chris McPherson, joined alongside Fran Duffy as the Eagles are in Cleveland to take on the Browns at First Energy Stadium. The Eagles, they're trying to stay on top of the proverbial mountain in the NFL, while the Browns, look, they have nowhere to go but up after winning just one game in the last 2 seasons. The Stars are expected to play the entire first half tonight and maybe even into the third quarter a little bit, but after that, we won't see a vast majority of them until the opener on September 6th against Atlanta. So, Fran, as we get things going here, I feel like the goal tonight is for the Eagles to clean up a few things from the first 2 preseason games and build some momentum going into the regular season.
Yeah, Chris, you and I sat in these 2 seats last week at the same time and said the exact same thing, that they really needed to clean things up from preseason game 1 to game 2. Well, they really need to clean some things up from game 2 to game 3. Only 7 points scored on offense against the New England Patriots. You saw missed tackles on defense, too many penalties on both sides of the football. They just got to clean things up and really just get in sync on both sides of the football here tonight.
All right, let's send it over to First Energy Stadium to check out the warm-ups. And first, we're going to start with the quarterbacks. Nick Foles gets a start tonight. He is fine from that shoulder strain he suffered a week ago, and he really needs to get into a rhythm after going just 3 of 9 for 44 yards in his preseason debut against New England.
Yeah, obviously very thankful that injury to his shoulder was just so minor, but really hoping for a comeback performance here from Nick Foles. It was a rough outing. The offensive line did not help matters, especially on the left side. So you hope that the offensive line is able to come back with a strong performance against a pretty young and talented defensive front for Cleveland. So it'll be an interesting matchup there in the trenches, but you hope to see Nick Foles bounce back. And then we got to see Nate Sudfeld last week. I thought number 7 threw the ball very, very well. So we'll see some more of Nate Sudfeld in the second half.
You've seen that touch on the deep ball is very impressive. He's cutting down the mistakes. He has really evolved this preseason, and he was the guy, I think, going into it that the Eagles had the most questions about at the quarterback position. We all know what Foles can do, okay? The key for him is to just kind of get his feet wet so that if he is the guy on September 6th against the Falcons, that he will be good to go. But overall, though, I would expect to see these 2 quarterbacks tonight primarily. Again, Foles, you expect to see the first half, and then maybe a little bit in the third quarter, but Sudfeld will be the backup taking over after that.
Yeah, you certainly hope that we don't see any Nick Foles in the third quarter. I would imagine that if they come out, they score 2 or 3 touchdowns in that first half, you feel like Doug Peterson will let the starters go. But if they come out and struggle again, it wouldn't shock me to see them playing till midway through the third quarter.
Indeed. You want to get them out of there at that
no
point.
Question.
So hopefully they'll have some more help around them tonight. You mentioned there, the offensive line not really contributing to the success last week. You look at the running back position going into this game. Look, we don't expect Jay Ajayi. We don't expect Corey Clement or Darren Sproles to play tonight. So for me, what's going on at that 4th running back position, okay? Wendell Smallwood, I guess it would be the leader in the clubhouse at this point. You have Matt Jones coming off not such a great performance last week against New England. And then Josh Adams is expected to be back in the lineup after missing last week in New England. Donnell Pumphrey remains out with the hamstring injury. So when you look at position battles, that's really one to see there.
Yeah, that's really what you want to see is just you want to see the young kid, Josh Adams. How does he perform here on Thursday night? And then can Wendell Smallwood continue to just kind of chip away at that job? I agree with you. He's probably the leader in the clubhouse at this point for that 4th running back job.
All right, we see Mike Wallace, number 14 there. He made his preseason debut for the Eagles a week ago. It wasn't able to get much going. I would love for him to get the ball early. I would, quite honestly, be excited to see a shot over the top just to get him going, to get the fans excited about what he can do in this offense this season, because he's been quiet in the preseason, but again, 10-year veteran who's been very productive throughout his entire career. You don't need to see a ton of him here in the preseason, but still, you want something to whet your appetite.
So maybe like a little opening play, deep shot.
I wouldn't mind.
Go back.
Not at all.
I wouldn't put it past Doug Peterson to do something like that. We used to see that a lot with Andy Reid, and it wouldn't shock me at all. Remember the first play of that open practice, that second open practice, he made a big play on a deep post. You kind of hope to see those kind of plays here in the preseason, but if not, that's the kind of verticality you're going to get from a guy like Mike Wallace.
I like that, and that's what he wants to bring to the table. He wants to get the fans excited. So as we talk about the depth at wide receiver, Shelton Gibson has been the breakout player from that position group this summer. Another magnificent performance last week. You look at the top 5 receivers at this point. Really, is there going to be room for anyone after that? We see Greg Ward there taking some of the snaps. We should see a lot of him in the slot tonight. But DeAndre Carter has flashed. Some other guys have made some noise, but overall, though, you're looking at those after those top 5 receivers. Will there be any room on the roster for anyone beyond those guys?
Well, really, it's going to come down to 2 things. It's one, are you a young player that you are worthy of trying to stash on the bottom part of the depth chart, or are you going to bring something to the team in terms of being a quality special teams player? And that's where someone like the veteran Kamar Aiken can come into play. If the Eagles feel like they need more numbers on special teams, then that's where a guy like Kamar Aiken can really become part of the picture and really kind of make an impact on this depth chart. But really, that extra receiver, that 6th receiver, they're going to be competing with the likes of a 4th running back or a 4th or 5th tight end on the roster. Those are the guys that are going to be battling it out to see who is the 53rd or the 52nd man on the 53-man roster.
You mentioned a possibility of a 4th tight end. There's some questions surrounding Richard Rodgers' injury. He suffered a knee injury last week in New England after scoring the touchdown. Maybe does that open a spot there for someone like Billy Brown to make his way onto the roster?
Who has made an outstanding catch in seemingly every single day of practice. And you see his athleticism, a converted college receiver. You just hope to see that transition to the game. And he was able to make one catch that was out of bounds in the first game. You just want to see that athleticism translate. I'm excited. Hopefully he gets a shot here tonight to really show what he can do.
All right, as we look at the offensive line warming up, the guy for me who is under the spotlight is Big V, Halapoulivaati Vaitai. Struggled mightily last week. He gave up the sack where Nick Foles suffered the shoulder injury on against Adrian Claiborne. Just was not himself whatsoever from a technique standpoint. After the game, he even admitted from a mental standpoint he wasn't prepared for the action the way he should have been. So going against former #1 overall pick Myles Garrett really needs to ramp up his game because, again, Jason Peters we expect to be ready for week 1, but he's the swing tackle. Vaitai is the swing tackle if there is an injury along the offensive line this season.
And what's interesting to keep in mind about Big V is in practice, over the course of training camp, he's taking the reps with the 1st and 2nd team because Jason Peters not taking all the reps. So, I don't know if it was a fatigue thing or what last week, but it was probably his worst outing as an NFL player since his first game against the Washington Redskins in 2016. So you hope that he's going to bounce back. He was so good down the stretch last year. You hope he's able to build off of that.
All right, so as we're transition to the defensive side of the football, looking along the defensive line, the position group for me is the tackles right there because I think obviously Fletcher Cox is one of the best in the game.
No doubt.
But the depth is going to be a bit of a question mark right now, and they have some talent there, but it's who's going to step up to the plate. Haloti Ngata, you don't need to see a lot of in the preseason, but he's with a new team, sort of the same situation as Mike Wallace. But there are some young guys there like Destiny Viau, who I thought stepped up last week. You have Elijah Qualls, you have Bruce Hector. They're going to really need the depth there to keep that defensive line rotation going this season.
Yeah, no question. You have Tim Jernigan on the shelf still from that offseason injury. So who is going to step up, especially on rundowns for this team? Is it going to be Haloti Ngata? Is it going to be Destiny Viau? He got the majority of the first-team reps at defensive tackle early on. So I would expect to see all those guys here tonight. And honestly, I think that they've had a shot here against this Cleveland interior to really make some noise in the passing game and in the run game.
All right, so we have some other position battles we're going to get to later on in the program, but one of the bright spots so far this preseason has been the development of rookie tight end Dallas Goedert, the team's top draft pick here in 2018. Fran and Mike Mayock broke down his performances to date and explained how he's going to fit into this Eagles offense.
Well, one of the most fun storylines to watch this summer here in training camp and in the preseason has been the development of rookie Dallas Goedert as a blocker, and really just how important that is for this Eagles offense. I'm Fran Duffy, joined by Eagles color commentator for the preseason, Mike Mayock from NFL Network. And Mike, let's just talk about the role of tight ends in this Eagles offense and really how important it is for Doug Peterson's overall scheme.
Well, coaches call it 12 personnel, right? 2 tight ends in the game, 1 back, 2 tight ends, 2 wide receivers. And the whole key to 12 personnel is when you have 2 tight ends that are 6'5", 6'6", 250, 255 pounds with an ability to get down the field and catch the ball vertically, you get two advantages. Number one, you get the mismatch, the matchup advantage. And I think that's what every NFL offensive coordinator in the league wants. Where am I finding the matchup advantage in the pass game? But the corollary to that is that if you can block as well, if those 2 big guys are willing, and they're not going to be great blockers, but if they're willing to block, now all of a sudden from a scheme perspective, your quarterback can sit out there, Carson Wentz or Foles, and he looks around and he goes, okay, they're a nickel. We got 2 tight ends in the game and they're a nickel, we're going to run the ball. Or if they're in base, we got 2 tight ends that get down the field, now we're going to throw the ball. And the Eagles quarterbacks are so intelligent and can control the game at the line of scrimmage, it gives them a pre-snap advantage.
Yeah, and so that's why going into this preseason, showing that Dallas Goedert can be a willing blocker,
correct,
one of the biggest storylines to watch. And we saw that week 1 against Pittsburgh. We saw it again last Thursday.
And let's make the point, in college they did not ask him to block, hardly at all, so we didn't know. He wasn't asked to block, didn't mean he can't block, but we had no idea whether or not he'd be a willing blocker.
Sure. So tell us what you're seeing here. This is going to be a play where he's at the point of attack here on the left side as an inline player. Zach Ertz, by the way, in the slot on the back side of this run. So what do you see here from Goedert?
So we're 12 personnel. Now let's start to roll this thing, and you're going to see him locate who he's got to block on the run, because it's really outside zone, for lack of a better term. They might try to pull the center. But look at Goedert. Again, is he willing? Is he willing to get in position? And right away he's in position. His hands, he's got to get his hands in there tight. That's Chung, who's a pretty good safety he's blocking. And look at the movement he gets on Chung. That's outstanding, and it's supposed to be point of attack, even though Jay Ajayi ended up cutting it back. So he got out to the second level, got a big body on a safety, and he wins at the point of attack.
So now we see this second play here, and we're going to see him again on the play side of this run. This time he's a little detached.
Yeah, and what I like here is this is an arc release, where he's going to take an arc and look for a different color jersey, which is going to be Bentley, the inside linebacker. This is a 255-pound linebacker who brings some thud with him. So a little motion. Now watch the arc release. Gets on Bentley. Now run him out of the play. Keep your legs moving. Keep your feet moving. That's 2 plays in a row, a safety and a linebacker, where he's been willing and able to make a block at the point of attack.
And like you said, now this really kind of sets things up for Doug Peterson and this offensive coaching staff. Let's take a look at a couple of plays from last fall when they were just so effective with 12 and 13 personnel. You had Zach Ertz, Brent Selleck, and Trey Burton. This is a 2 tight end set now. You've got Zach Ertz here on the backside. Trey Burton, he's out of the frame right now. He's going to come in and be a part of this play.
Yeah, Burton's going to come in here and get a crackback block, a legal crackback block. And Ertz, what he usually is backside cutoff. So you're using Ertz's athletic ability, and you're using Burton last year, and we think Goedert this year more as a point of attack guy.
Yeah, so now you're going to be able to see just what the Eagles are able to get at the point of attack with both of these guys, especially with Burton.
Right
Great
there.
job.
Look at Burton right here, and what he's trying to do is wall off this linebacker. Outstanding job. Again, what do you have to do? You have to be willing. He was only about, what, 220?
Yeah.
You know,
Former quarterback.
So Goddard's got 30, 35 pounds on Burton, should be more effective. This is beautiful, though, right? YY, meaning 2 tight ends here, slot on the other side. We used to call this YY slot when I played for Coach Parcells. And what they're going to do here is they're just going to kind of reverse the outside guys coming inside, the inside guys coming outside, and what they're looking for is the matchup issue. Right. And if you can get one of those tight ends, especially Zach Ertz, on this inside linebacker with no help, it's all over.
And that's exactly what the Eagles get. And what I love about these 2 plays as well is that this play came against base. The last play came against nickel. You're running against 5 defensive backs. Yep. You're throwing against 3 linebackers. You're trying to find those favorable matchups.
And again, with a quarterback as smart as Carson Wentz or Nick Foles, pre-snap, you can stand there, take a look at what the defense shows you, and know that you've got run-pass options because of those 2 talented tight ends.
With the addition of Dallas Goedert, I think there were still some questions about what this Eagles offense would look like. I think all those concerns, I think you can probably throw them by the wayside. Really good things so far this summer from the rookie.
Fran, what was the term that Mike Mayock used on the Eagle Eye in the Sky podcast when it comes to Dallas Goedert and tight ends in general and blocking? Lose slowly?
Lose slowly. I love it.
It's a perfect line, and it perfectly describes it, because you want to make sure that the offense is balanced and the defenses can't key in one way or another. Now, someone who didn't lose much at all in 2017 was all-pro tackle Lane Johnson. He finally put all of the talent together to establish himself as one of the premier offensive linemen in all of the NFL. He also keeps the guys loose in the locker room, and you'll get a taste of that on the latest episode of Audible featuring Lane Johnson.
All of us?
All 3 of you right here. You definitely were a little bit back on that.
Yeah.
That's what you need to have. Wide end. There we go.
There you go. Scared Snow's going to go upfield, so get ready to get a little bit of depth. Boo!
Ooh.
That's what a sorry sound system sounds like, Mike. Let's go hard. Woo! It's about 3 inches, son. Hit it with a short jab.
Hey, we go. Dude, that's the game.
Gotta have a violent 3-inch jab. Hey, make sure inside vertical step first.
That's good job.
Good ball, son. Who you got?
I'm right here. You're right there.
You're right there.
Coming off.
Push it, Lane.
You're good. Good. 180.
Hey, you got Chris?
Hey, kill.
What do you want, D?
All right, so there's Lane Johnson, a taste of what he's like on the field. And again, he brings that energy to the locker room as well to energize the guys. Remember the dog mask from last season, helping kindle the underdog theme with defensive end Chris Long. So we're going to take a break here on the Kickoff Show presented by Axalta. But first, if you're following us on Facebook or Twitter, you need to come on over to PhiladelphiaEagles.com or the app to watch the rest of the show. We'll be back after these messages.